Indian Muslims have become politically irrelevant. This has become a common topic for drawing room discussion. Neither their votes change the fortunes of the candidates anymore, nor the national political parties are really interested in giving them tickets. This situation has not developed in the last one decade, but has been an ongoing phenomenon since 1980s. How can Muslims become politically relevant? This is what we are going to discuss in this show today. Welcome to The Matrix. Indian Muslims have shown unwavering faith in democracy. Ulema have reminded them from time to time that participating in the election process is mandatory nation-building exercise. Yet since 1980s, Muslim representation in the Lok Sabha has either been declining or at best stayed stagnant. As a result, they are feeling politically left out. And this is leading to a vicious circle for Muslims' deteriorating situation as an Indian community. Today I have with me Dr. Zafar Mahmood Saab, who has done detailed work on Indian Muslims and their political representation. Welcome to the show, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
My first question to you, sir, would be that the Muslim community share in the general population has gone up, but their political representation has nosedived. How do you see the situation?
This is a long story actually. Ever since after the independence, of course we'll take the independence 1947 as the benchmark. So since then, if we look back to the last 75 years or so,
Right.
we find that in the beginning there was some sort of a feeling of deprivation and the community. I can suppose that. Of course, I was very small. I was born at the time of independence, maybe 4 or 5 years after that.
Right.
But then what the Muslim community and the people who are conscious of their existence in the world, existence in the country, what they should have done for the sake of the community,
Right.
that was perhaps lacking, a lot of lack. I mean, what actually used to happen was that it was a slow burner process at that time. That fine, all right, the government is not bad and they are not after us negatively. So whatever little is coming, it's okay. No special effort was made systematically and collectively at that time, either internally or externally by the community to raise the level of the community. Of course, there are exceptions, but very few and far
Largely.
between you will find the examples of people doing that.
Right.
Perhaps that was the reason why we have not been able, that's the answer of your question in
Right.
my opinion,
Yes.
that's why we have been lagging behind, as has been documented by the Justice Structure Committee as late as in 2006.
Right. Isn't it ironic, sir, that Muslims follow Islam, and Islam is a very community-based religion where, you should have reforms within the community is supposed to evolve. Just like many other communities in India, look at Sikhs, they have also, done a lot of great work. But unfortunately, within the Indian Muslims, as you rightly pointed out, that the efforts were not made. Now, sir, there is a misconception that Muslims' political irrelevance happened over the last 10 years, I think. When you actually look at the data, it shows that the political decline had actually started in the 1980s. And you have served in the government for a very long span of period. So this shows that the rise of Hindutva alone is not the only reason for Muslims' poor political representation. There must be something else which was going on. What do you have to say?
No, to some extent, partly you are right that even before the last 10 years, even before that, it was not a bed of roses for Muslims politically.
Right.
So, but then it was not as bad a situation. That is also a fact.
Right.
Yes, Muslim representation was much lower than the Muslim presence in the population of India at any given point of time.
Right.
If you take only the Lok Sabha representation, and we are in for the Lok Sabha elections now.
Right.
So, if you take into account that also, so the population of Muslims as per the last census, 2011, was 14.2%. It must have gone up by now. But then let us take that 14.2%. And if you compare that with the Muslim representation in the Lok Sabha, in all the Lok Sabhas, right from the first Lok Sabha till this current one, then one finds, I have done that exercise.
Right.
So then one finds that the representation of Muslims should be through 77 Muslim members of Lok Sabha.
77.
77.
So,
But the average number of Muslims in the Lok Sabha has been hovering around 27.
27.
27.
Yes.
During 1 year, it has gone up to 48
I
or
think that was in
something like
80s
that.
itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then it has been going down and up and down. So even that Lok Sabha barometer also tells us that Muslims are thoroughly underrepresented.
Right.
If you go to the states, the situation mostly is still worse. And when you travel down deeper, still lower at the local level,
Right.
in the urban and rural local bodies, there also their situation is not good. A lot of work is required to be done, and that has not been done. That is the issue.
Okay.
The work
The
that should
grassroots,
be done
yeah.
at grassroots level by the Muslim community in order to ensure that they remain properly represented
Right.
in the and in the legislative wing also at all the three levels,
Right.
Lok Sabha, assemblies and the local bodies.
Yes.
So that is a lot of work which is required to be done, but that work has not been done. I can say that I have been going through all the reports, etc. So that has been going by default.
So no systematic or genuine efforts were made at that level, which is so crucial. But sir, also if you talk about 1980s, you see, 1980s the decline started, and many people say that even the Congress, during 1980s, some of the speeches which were made in Jammu and other places could perhaps be the reason that their numbers were declining. Even other political parties are not very keen since the 1980s to give tickets to Muslim candidates. But now let me ask you another question. There are 14 Lok Sabha constituencies where Muslims form most of the electorate. Now, there are 13 more constituencies where Muslims comprise more than 40% of the population. Yet, they are unable to yield political dividends. Many Muslims believe that they had to pay a heavy price for the delimitation exercises which have been carried out by successive governments. Is this a fair point which people make?
You have joined 2 points in one.
Right.
So actually the first part of your question is that where those constituencies and wards, I would say, where Muslim community is good in numbers, more than 50%, more than 40%, etc.
Right.
Why the Muslims have not been represented from there. That is correct, because the Muslim community, see, any community or any individual, and more so the community, if is interested in getting represented in the legislative bodies, so the political system is such that they should make themselves indispensable. That, and of course that comes through conscious effort.
Right.
But that has not been done, as I was saying just now.
Right.
That was the reason, and that is the reason even today, that there are constituencies in the first bracket which you just now referred to, where the Muslim community is
14 also.
populated at the rate of more than 50%.
Right.
According to, I have done a lot of work in
Yes.
that regard. So there are 11 constituencies all over India
Yes.
where the Muslim community is represented by more than 50%.
Right.
So in fact, it's from 50 to about 78 it goes.
Right.
So any of those 11 constituencies, if Muslims, whatever Muslim wish, that is not being done.
Right.
So that is quite unreasonable, I would say.
Right.
I would say not palatable. Because the simple rules of democracy also deny that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it doesn't mean
which
that,
means
yeah.
that the community is not at all conscious,
Right.
and they are, I would say, not good Muslims, because a good Muslim is supposed to be conscious of the community.
Community.
So they are not doing that.
Right.
So a lot of, I would say, the tarbiyat is required to be done for the Muslim community in such areas. Second part you said about delimitation.
Right.
Yes. Justice Sachar Committee said that the Muslims are underrepresented in the legislative bodies because of many factors. But one factor which they pointed out was not in the conscience of the Muslim community and other people of India who are the benefactors. So, and that was, as you rightly mentioned, there are good rules of delimitation, by the way. We, under the Caste Foundation of India, we've been doing this work for the last 1 decade. So, and very successfully. So, there are very good rules, but the rules are not implemented always in letter and spirit. So, that is a default which the Muslim community, the voter concerned, they should take it up in right earnest in order to make sure that there is no violation of the delimitation rules. That's what we have been doing at the grassroots level for the last about 1 decade. And I would tell you, we'll be very happy that the success rate is very high. Because we simply write under RTI to the election commission concerned of the state,
Right.
well in advance of the elections, pointing out that such and such rule of yours is being violated in the delimitation which you have already done in such and such constituency, etc. So usually they have no choice but to correct it.
Right.
So that's what it has been doing. So, but then, according to my information, and any other organization is not yet doing it. But then, of course, it is a matter which should be taken up jointly by so many people and so many organizations.
Absolutely. In a democracy, it is very important to have a proper representation, which doesn't obviously mean that you have a leader from your own community, but somebody who represents you truly, who cares about you, who's there in your thick and thin, who can always be available for you. But now, sir, also that I've seen that there have been many complaints. Now we are also approaching Lok Sabha elections. Muslim community members have often complained that their names do not figure on the voters list. What could be done to redress such complaints? And is there a need for some kind of awareness campaign? Because the election commission is already carrying out campaigns in this regard.
Yeah, you are right. Again, here also a lot of work is required to be done by the community collectively in different places. And you will again be happy to know that under the Caste Foundation of India, there is one unit known as Paropkar.
Right.
So that the unit does this work.
Right.
There are so many areas to be attended to. Those who have crossed the age of 18, but they are not registered voters,
Right.
get them made as a registered voter. Those who got themselves registered as a voter and have got the election card, but then many of them will find that their name is missing from the electoral roll,
Right.
get it restored to the There is a process for that. Election Commission has prescribed, and it's all in the public domain. So I would urge the fellow Muslims of India and the other people of India through your channel that that work is required to be done in different districts, in different areas where the Lok Sabha election is going to be held, and where the people are conscious about this particular factor. And in my view, everybody should be conscious, because this is a very sacred constitutional duty.
Right.
If you are eligible to vote, then you must make it sure that you are voting.
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
that's
and-
the crux of democracy.
Absolutely, and not wait till the last moment when you go to the polling booth and find out that
Yeah,
your name is not
yeah.
there. But yes, now, sir, also a related question on these 2 points we have discussed. One is the delimitation, which you've been working on for the last 1 decade, and of course, the names not figuring. What is there any other recourse if, despite your following up about the grievances or the complaints you have, or the issues which you have with the delimitation, or your name not figuring in the voters list, what is the recourse a person can take other than writing to?
See, as far as delimitation work is concerned, the first, of course, is to reach out to the election commission of the state concerned,
Right.
and wait for their response. During there is a statutory time period also given, that. So if a satisfactory response is not coming during that time period, then one can go to in appeal to the higher authorities, which is all laid out.
Right.
In fact, we have been doing that. We also have been going in many cases to the High Court, and at least in one case even to the Supreme Court.
I see.
And at every level, we have found that there is a support. Because, at every level. So this is a very good work which many of us should be doing.
Yes.
But we have not been doing.
Right.
One more thing which you mentioned in the beginning. So there I have to give you some statistics that which may be of interest
Yes, sir.
to your listeners, is that 50% plus, as I mentioned to you, the Muslim presence. Such constituencies are 11. And between 40 and 49.
Yes.
Between 40 and 49%, the constituencies, I am talking all of Lok Sabha constituencies.
Right.
Again, another set of 11 constituencies
Okay.
where Muslim presence it is all government statistics,
Okay.
between 40 and 49%.
Okay.
Then the third slab is between 30 and 39%.
Okay.
There are 17.
That is also quite significant.
17.
Right.
Yeah. Then 20 and 29%. You see, please mind it that the election is decided by about 40% of the
Game
voters.
changers, yeah.
40% of the voters only decide the elections everywhere, even today.
Yes, yes.
Out of that, if your people are 30 to 39%.
Right.
So, I mean, you are saying in those there are 17 constituencies,
Right.
between 30 and 39.
Right.
So, in those 17 constituencies, if your voice is not being heard, then something wrong with you only. So, like that, the fourth slab is 20 to 29%. Again, another important segment.
Right.
And such number of constituencies is 25.
Oh, okay.
And the last one is between 17 and 19%.
Okay.
And that segment has 14. So
14.
total there are 78
That's quite a huge
constituencies
number. Yeah. Yes.
where there is substantial presence of Muslims.
78, yes.
But then if the Muslims are not able to grab those seats,
Yes.
then there is a lot of internal thinking is to be done.
Or get a leader which represents them, not necessarily from their own community.
Same thing.
Yes.
See, a candidate of their choice, because
Right.
they are forming substantial portion in the electorate.
Right.
So it has to be a candidate of their choice.
Someone who inspires the confidence.
Yeah, but then not that I would also say here that there is another trend which can be seen,
Right.
that the Muslim vote is distributed because so many Muslim candidates are there.
Yes.
Or so many candidates who are of the liking of the Muslim community are there.
Right.
So in all those areas, the community, the society has to take care of it itself quite in advance. A lot of ground level work is required to be done,
Right.
so that good representation is done
Yes.
of those who are deserving that representation.
Yes, sir. One last question, sir. It is ironic that the political situation of more than 20 crore Indian Muslims is worse than any other community. You were quoting such a committee. It has already pointed this out. How should Muslims shape up their political future in India? I mean, how should they model their political leaders in future?
See, something which is to be noted and for oneself and to be advised to others is live within the constitutional framework.
Absolutely.
And which is very rich. I mean, take full advantage of the
Right.
constitutional framework.
Absolutely.
But add to that, on Friday, before the sermon is finished and Imam Sahib stands up for leading the namaz,
Right.
the last line which he recites from the Holy Quran, Innamal a'mala, I'm not remembering that, but then that is the ayat number 90
Right.
from surah number 16.
Okay.
Ayat number, so 16.90.
Okay.
Okay. So there God talks about adl and ihsan, justice and compassion.
Right.
So God is happy or fine if I am doing justice to whatever I am coming through.
Right.
He is fine. But if I raise myself to the level of ihsan, that is compassion, I am extraordinarily good
Right.
to the other fellow,
Yes.
then God likes it very much. That is ihsan.
Right.
So we have to live within the constitutional framework. At the same time, we have to raise ourselves to the higher orbit of ihsan. If we combine these two things, we will be ahead of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, so much for enlightening us and coming here to our studios. It is true that the rise of the BJP and increased popularity of Hindutva severely dented the prospects of Muslims either in getting election tickets or winning their seats. But it would be unfair to blame the BJP alone for the decline in political fortunes of Muslim candidates cutting across party lines. It's time that Indian Muslims reimagine their leaders if they wish to stay politically relevant. That's all we have this week. We'll be back with another interesting topic. Till then, goodbye from the Matrix team.